Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the TRTA live program for April 20th. We are about 1 month away from being completely done with legislative session, at least the regular session. And those of you that are watching this broadcast who have worked in the legislative process before, you probably picked up on that little hint that I was laying down, and the idea that there is a regular session, and we hope that all the work that is needing to get done during this regular legislative session actually does get done, and we don't have to have any of those special sessions. But I think overall, as far as retired school employees, TRS, the issues that TRTA is really pushing, we're doing really well. So let me begin today by saying that we are very fortunate in the Austin area to be having some thunderstorms, which we desperately need the rain. I know all of Texas is interested in getting as much rain as we can right now, but we've had a few kind of blow in, blow out thunderstorms. Problem with that is that we've lost power twice. So here's the rule today: if this broadcast ends abruptly because power has gone out and we've lost internet, I will see you all next Thursday. So we're not going to try to reconnect and keep the audience and all that other sort of stuff. So we're just going to say, look, if we're a power outage, we'll see y'all next Thursday. So I wanted to spend today's time with you, kind of giving you just a quick update on where are we legislatively, and then fill you in on some things that we could be doing in the meantime. So where we are right now is that we are still waiting for the full Texas House to have their version of TRS benefit enhancements moving into that chamber. So what we know is at the end of last week, the Senate bill, as we predicted, and I think we talked about it on this show last Thursday, the Senate bill 10, came over to the House. The House Pensions Committee had a quick hearing on that bill. They didn't take any additional testimony. The chairman of the Appropriations Committee, who is carrying House Bill 600, which is the House version of the benefit enhancement. So the House version is the 2, 4, and 6 COLA. It's a benefit stipend for anyone 70 years of age and over. It has the gain share. It has legacy payments. It's also connected to the HJR, which is the voter approval in November. So that whole plan was taken as House Bill 600, and it was all of that language was substituted into Senate Bill 10. So the advantage for this is that Senate Bill 10 has already passed out of the Senate. So now that it's in the House, we've got one leg of the journey already done on that bill. So the House says, all right, great. You know what? Senate Bill 10 has come over. It's dealing with the subject matter that we want to deal with, which is helping TRS retirees. We, the House, we have a different plan. So we're going to take our language, we're going to put it into your bill. And that is the bill that is going to move into the House for a debate, questions, comments, a vote. And then ultimately, we believe, will be sent back to the Senate. And the Senate can either accept what the House has put together as House Bill 600, which will then become the substitute for Senate Bill 10, or the Senate can say, well, we liked our version better, and so we're going to disagree, and we want to put together a special committee called the Conference Committee. Now, all of that process is still to come. And a lot of our members remember last legislative session when it felt like things were going really well, and we had some action in a pensions committee This went to the calendars committee, and then things just sort of didn't go anywhere after that. And so this week I've been fielding a lot of phone calls and emails from our members saying, should we be worried that we haven't seen all of those steps take place? Should we be concerned that we didn't see so far this week that Senate Bill 10 with the House language move into the Texas House for debate and vote? So, my quick answer to that is no, we're not worried. In this business, there are a lot of things that occur. There are a lot of issues, and the process sometimes goes really quickly, and other times it slows down. And so I believe in the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, Dr. Bonin. I believe in the Speaker of the Texas House, Dave Phelan, who both of these leaders have made TRS pension enhancements for retirees a priority for the state of Texas in that chamber. And so while the Senate has already moved all of their bills over on this issue, or their bill over, I personally and my team included, we do not feel any sense of urgency or anxiety that we didn't see that happen. Now, of course, there are only so many days in legislative session. We are about a month before this thing is all over for the regular session. So the pace will quicken. There will be timelines that we have to meet. But we are staying in close contact with Dr. Bonin's office, with all of our friends in leadership and legislative roles, and I can assure you that those of you who were here last week for our day at the Capitol, you left a tremendous impression. And so, no, I'm not worried right now. And I'd like for all of you to focus any sense of anxiety that you have into some steps on how to be ready when we may need to call on our members to get involved. So this session, again, we've been made a priority. That's a great feeling. A lot of times during a legislative session, we've got a lot of messaging going on in the Texas legislative offices, working to get a foothold in the process and reinforce that we need to be made a priority. But this legislative session, very fortunately, and with much gratitude to leaders in both the House and the Senate, they have made retired school employees of Texas and retired educators a major priority. And so here's what we want to do simply to be ready. If you are the president of your local chapter, if you're a legislative coordinator in your chapter, if you're involved in programs or leadership, what we would first encourage is that you stay in close communication with your local chapter members. Many people will have a couple of opinions at this point in time. They will either believe that all is well and there's nothing to worry about, or they will think that, or they could think that things are going badly and all of a sudden, bad things are going to start happening. Both of those paths lead us to a place of not being productive. Either some things are out of our control and we're not able to get something accomplished, and all of a sudden we worry too much and it leads us to make bad decisions, or we are not staying in contact with our elected officials and sort of taking this time for granted. So just so you know, every day we're in the Capitol. We're meeting with elected officials. We're talking to folks. We're making phone calls. We are sending those emails. Our team, our Capitol team, is constantly trying to remain visible and positive. And so if you're a leader in your local chapter, my recommendation to all of you is to let people know that while there's time on the clock, everything that could happen in a legislative session can still happen, good or bad. And so we want our members to remain engaged. We want them to remain positive, and we want them to remain focused on what our issues are all about. We want to get our retirees a COLA. We want to pass the stipend. We want to get the most help for our retirees in the fastest way possible. And so, if you're organizing and communicating with the folks that are a part of your local chapter, I would encourage them to stay on social media, log on to your local legislators' social media pages. A lot of these legislators are on social media. It's Facebook or Twitter. I'm sure there are others, but those are probably the dominant ones. And I would go on there and I would say something positive, especially House members, because they have not had yet a chance to vote on these matters. And I would encourage your House members on social media to keep an eye out for the committee substitute for Senate Bill 10. That appears to be the bill that will move to the Texas House and be voted on for TRS retirees. Again, that's the committee substitute for Senate Bill 10, House committee substitute for Senate Bill 10. Now, we at TRTA will let you all know when that bill is likely to go to the House floor. I think it's going to be sometime next week. But then again, I also thought it could have been this week, but there were some other items that were moving first, and that's just the way it goes in this process. So I'm still keeping my eyes on next week for that bill moving to the House, and so I'd spend the next several days being positive, communicating with your elected officials. If you're not big into social media, then you certainly can make a phone call to those legislators' offices. This is the time of year where legislative offices are being phone banked. And so there's lots of technology that is being used to make elected officials feel as though they're being bombarded in a positive or negative way on a certain issue. And just like all the rest of us who cannot stand getting those spam kind of calls, legislative offices are getting a bunch. We just call it phone banking, email banking, that sort of thing. But our organization's a lot different because we're real people. And so I would encourage you to pick up the phone, call your legislator's office. Hopefully, by now, over the last several weeks, you might have developed a relationship with that staff person in your state representatives or your state senator's office. Call them up, tell them who you are, what your issue is, be as polite and as encouraging as possible. Just think of that the person on the other end of that phone is somebody who probably needs a little bit of encouragement, and they've had 15 bad phone calls during the day. To get one nice one is probably going to make their day. And so that's a very effective step, is to just remain in communication with your elected officials. Now, if you have a personal relationship with your state legislator, your state House member, I would encourage you just once. You don't need to do this every day over and over again. Just reach out to this person and say, hey, still looking forward to seeing this bill move. We're eager to see the House vote on it. We really support the idea of retirees getting the most help that you all can provide in the fastest, most guaranteed way possible. And so encourage them through phone calls, and you can email as well. But, my first piece of advice to y'all during this period of time is to channel any potential anxiety into positive communication with that state representative's office. Again, as the bill moves, we will put together an email campaign, or we will let you all know when that's going to happen. But we are not in a need to heavy-handed approach at this point in time. We're in an encouragement role, knowing that we are getting a lot of support from legislators. So just touch base. Another suggestion that I would make for all of those that are wanting to know a little bit more is that if your local chapter is having a meeting, or if you'd like an update we'd be happy to send an email update to y'all about what's going on. Encourage people to sign up for our inside line. The most recent up-to-date piece of information really is that the House has not yet moved that bill, and it is not because they are not wanting to. It is more about just where things seem to be falling timeline wise with other bills that are moving ahead. I do anticipate that that bill is going to move soon, so be ready. One more piece of advice that I'd like to give everyone is that we still have another 30 days to go. We're going to see the House take their action, and then we're going to see this thing move into more of a negotiation, more of a private negotiation between the House and the Senate. At that point in time, TRTA will very likely be providing recommendations and pieces of information to those legislators who may serve on that conference committee. We'll be working closely with them, but every House and Senate member they're vital to this process moving forward. And so I would just encourage you again to maintain this outlook that we are going to go until the very end of session. Just mentally start preparing yourself on the idea that we're going to have to stick this out to the very end. There are a lot of controversial things that are being talked about every day. I think the most controversial part of our piece of legislation is how exactly will the help be delivered. There again are some differences between the House and the Senate versions, but overall, I believe that leadership in the House and the Senate are listening to you through our team at the Capitol, and we're trying to provide as much information to them as possible to get the best possible bill done this legislative session. So stay in touch with each other. If your chapter is having a local meeting and you would like for me to participate in a Zoom meeting, I'm talking specifically to our TRTA chapter presidents, or if y'all are doing something where it's possible that I could be helpful, again, I'm more than happy to do that. You all have done an amazing job this legislative session as we got ready for this session, as we've been working this legislative session. The grassroots activity is through the roof. And so I applaud everything that you all have done. If I can help bolster any of those activities, obviously I can't leave Austin right now. So I'd love to come and see you. But my time is going to be spent over there in the Capitol building. But if there's something that we can do on Zoom or an update, again, I'm happy to help coordinate that with our local chapter leadership and see if we can get more involved in that way. Now, I've been talking to our chapter leaders primarily, but if you're a TRTA member and you're not involved in a local TRTA chapter, I'm telling you, now's the time to get involved. I mean, this is some of the best grassroots effort I've seen in 20 years of being here, and the leadership at our local level, they're doing great. And I would encourage you to find out more about your local TRTA chapter and get involved. There are plenty of things happening there, not all of which are about legislative session. So lots of other great things happening with our locals. So find one, get involved, stay connected, be a part of the grassroots, and hopefully you'll be able to learn a whole lot more about an enjoyable and active retirement with your fellow TRS retirees and participate in our legislative activities. Okay, so today really was just an update, and I'm going to look at, I was going to say, it was an update on kind of where things have gone. If you can't tell, since y'all left here last week, not a lot has happened. Procedurally, things have been happening. Behind the scenes work has been happening. Advocacy has been happening. But the next step, we're waiting for that to actually move forward. And so this week's update was mostly to come on and tell everybody It's not time to hit the panic button. It's not time to get ultra worried. It's time for positive reinforcement. It's time for good communication. Um, and it's time to try to get more people involved. I don't really get on here and try to sell TRTA membership. This is membership renewal time. That's the start of our membership renewal time, and our team has been working on getting all of that ready to go. And so I'll ask because I love this organization and I love the fact that we're able to do these things. If you're watching this and you are not a TRTA member, will you please join us? Will you please invest the $35 a year that it costs to be a member of the state organization? And will you then also please check out one of the local chapter nearest you and get involved with them too? We have got major issues that are going to need to be addressed when the state legislative session is over. Uh, we are simultaneously, and I know I've said this before, we don't talk a lot about it during the 140 days because that's the time that we have to get our bills passed in on the state side. But the federal issues, GPO, WEP, Social Security, there's a lot of discussion about all of those items occurring on a daily basis. And so when this legislative session is over, we pivot a little bit more to focus on our federal agenda and the things that are going on there. And I know, because I'm sure if I were to look at all of these comments that I'm seeing on my screen, if I scroll through here, one of these, it'll say WEP or GPO. As a matter of fact, I see one from Ms. Caldwell right now. Did we lose the WEP fight? The truth of the matter is, we did. We lost the WEP fight last Congress when the Congress failed to move forward a end of congressional cycle compromise solution that would have given retirees $150 a month of their WEP Social Security benefits back every month for the rest of their life, indexed to Social Security increases. And that was complete and total failure by the United States Congress to move that bill forward. And we were exceedingly disappointed in the chairman of Ways and Means, Richard Neal, who did not move that bill when he could have and should have. And it would have been an intermediate step to get us closer to a full repeal conversation on WEP and GPO. But we have to carry on. We have to carry on and continue to work on that issue. I can tell you right now that bills have been reintroduced dealing with full repeal, dealing with reform. We have so far seen in this legislative session, the state legislative session, both chambers, the House and the Senate, and both parties support the calling on Congress to repeal the WEP and the GPO. The lieutenant governor made a point of raising this as a major issue and has committed several times to go to Washington and raise the harm that is caused by WEP and GPO on the state of Texas as an issue that Congress needs to be addressing more. Heard this also from our friends in leadership in the House. So while that bill is not being voted on presently, we're putting in every effort in trying to move that as quickly as we can. Things are difficult to get accomplished on the House side, on the state side, but on the national agenda front, it's a challenge, but it's one that I know that our members are more than up to take on that task. So we'll continue to keep you all updated on that. And I'm still seeing several comments in here about the percentages and how much the percentages would be on the COLA. There was a great article, which I will find and see if we can put it on our website or social media, talking about some of the other states that are approving benefit enhancements for retirees. Now, a lot of these other states are what we call fully coordinated Social Security. their costs to manage those benefits are a lot different. A lot of times, those states only cover certificated classroom teacher or administrative personnel. Of course, TRS Texas covers so many more folks than a lot of these other state teacher retirement systems do. Ours covers everybody. So the cost of doing stuff is so much greater. But it was a good article and really concise on what was being discussed here in Texas, as well as what was being discussed around the country on benefit enhancements for retirees. And again, as I've said before, these bills that are moving through the state legislature, they start where they kind of with what we have, and after they go to conference committee, the work will go on between the conferees to negotiate what the final plan will be. And I think that it's reasonable to look at the leadership who will discuss these bills and say, look, there's a COLA portion and there's a pension stipend portion. And we're going to do this on COLA. And because it's not as much as we would like to do on the COLA for all the various reasons that I just don't want to get into today, but we can talk about it in the future. Should we expand this stipend to more people? In the House, it's 70 and over, it's $5,000. And the Senate bill, it's 75 and over, you get 7,500. I know people have talked about spreading those dollars out so that more people would be able to get the stipend as well as the COLA, to make sure that everybody had both a permanent increase as well as some extra money. So there are a lot of things that are still being talked about, and we're working on it. We are working on it, as I know that you all expect us to. So thank you so much. Just taking a look at some of the other comments, and a lot of questions just about how this thing might be ultimately negotiated out. Some other comments about the WEP and the GPO. We're following that. The good news is we're not seeing a lot of questions over here about whether or not our health insurance is secure. We have a very secure health insurance program with TRS Care. So very, very positive about what's going on with our health insurance right now. So we're moving in the right direction. There's a question here by Mary Alice Weichman that is saying, when do you expect the House and Senate to negotiate? They'll start right after the House takes action on their bill. Again, my hope is they're going to take that action sometime next week. And this thing could go to a conference committee, and it could sit there for a while until they get around to doing some other things. The legislative session is a interesting process, and it very much is a hurry up and wait, and then wait, and then all of a sudden everything happens, and then you're waiting again. So I know for sure that we're going to be done on May 29th. And my belief is that retired teachers are going to have a strong session by the time that we get to an end. It's a roller coaster ride. So just be ready for that, and know that more people involved in our organization allows us to keep that anxiety level sort of level, so that it's not up or down too much, and then channeling that in a certain direction so that we are communicating effectively, moving that in a direction that we think is the best for our folks, and ultimately winning, because that's what we want to do, is win. All right, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate what you all are doing. I'm just taking a look at a few more of these questions. Couple of questions about some of the investment folks at TRS. The investment team at TRS, they do a great job. When you look at salary levels for state employees, some of our TRS investment staff do have some of the higher echelon of salaries. The investment professional team at TRS, they are highly sought, very experienced investors that many people would love to recruit away from us. And the reality is that because of their experience, because of their knowledge, because of their gifts that they have, they are making a lot of money for the TRS trust fund. Um, and even though they are very good salaries, um, I think we all know that there are plenty of investment firms out there that would pay 5 times what folks are making here in Texas to try to recruit them away. And so we keep an eye on those things. There were some activities, changes made last legislative session that TRTA championed through our Sunset Bill process that made that a little more transparent. Uh, and as I've told our members in the past, I don't necessarily have a problem, and I don't think TRTA has a problem with a lot of the ways that we compensate the folks that are making money for retirees on the pension trust fund, because we need those folks to make a whole bunch of money for the trust fund every year, as long as that pay and compensation policy, the bonus policies, and all of the things that go along with it are reviewed, and that the board of trustees are using the tools that they have in the most effective way to keep the people here, and keep that performance high, but also make sure that we maximize the profit for the investment trust fund. And we could talk about that in maybe a future episode. And I haven't had any guests on this entire legislative session. Maybe my good friend Brian Guthrie, who's the director of TRS, will come on with us before the end of session and just talk about some of those things. But or we can save that for after the legislative session. But the gist of the comment was, we seem to be fighting for a reasonable COLA and stipend, yet some of these folks are making high incomes, and the reality is that I understand that discussion. I'm going to say that respectfully, I want to stay focused right now on winning as much as we can for retirees on the raise, spreading that stipend out if we can to help more folks, and let the investment team continue to make a whole bunch of money, so that when we get back next legislative session, we might be looking at doing something else to help retirees. I have said, and if you were at the day at the Capitol, whatever we do this legislative session is a huge start. Both of these bills are amazing accomplishments that we're working very hard for. We still have to keep an eye on how inflation has affected retirees over the last 20 years. And we know, as do our friends in the legislature know, that we've had tremendous inflation over the last 24 months. But a lot of retirees haven't had an increase from anywhere between 10 years to 20 years, and that inflation has built up over time. And so I believe the legislature understands that. It's sort of an education process every session that we have to go through. I don't know that we'll have as successful as a legislative session when it comes to COLAs and other things next time. I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm only thinking about winning right now. And so we're going to keep our eyes focused on that. I do hear what you're saying, Mr. Griffin, when you're asking about those things. And I take it to heart and look forward to talking to our members more about it as we get closer to the end of the session. All right, just taking a look at some other folks here. And for all of you that are just saying hello, I'm glad you're here. Thank you all for checking in. Thank you for the positive comments that y'all are making. We're focused to continue to work for y'all. Reach out to each other, stay in communication, advocate with your fellow TRS retirees that are not members of TRTA. I'm telling you, people want to win. Everybody loves winning. And so now is the time to invite those folks that have been kind of sitting on the sidelines saying, well, I don't know, I'm not sure if TRTA is right for me. Well, if TRTA is not right for you, I don't know what is, because we are winning on the idea of getting a cost of living raise, a stipend, some other benefit enhancements, now's the time to really get involved, and let's hope that more of those people will choose to get involved because we need their help. We got bigger issues in front of us. So, y'all, thank you so much for those comments and what you've been saying. Appreciate y'all so much. Just taking one last look at comments, and hopefully by next week, when we are back together again next Thursday at 4 o'clock, we will have seen some movement, and we'll talk about next steps. In the meantime, let me know if we can help. Send your questions and comments to our Facebook page and to our YouTube page. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Have a great Thursday. Talk to y'all later.